So about 2 months ago, I made a video about Hoyo being too greedy, and now we're gonna have the same topic of discussion for today's video, talking about Wuwa and their spending event and basically comparing the two. Now, I just want to start off by saying in preference that, as always, these are my thoughts and opinions, and you are entitled to yours as well, regardless if you agree or disagree. And if you'd like, we can have a little discussion in the comment section box below, as long as you're being kind and respectful. And with a little tidbit out of the way, let's get into the topic's discussion. So the first thing I want to talk about and to get into is the whole spending event as a whole. Spending events in any game really have always been seen as a negative thing. It's a spending event. What do you expect? It's literally in the name. Most companies will utilize spending events to really milk out as much money out of the players as possible, and there's a lot of predatory practices in spending events as a whole. And spending events to me are very much predatory in the sense that they promote FOMO, limited time events and characters, draining your bank account, putting you in debt, things like that are obviously seen as something negative in the community. So in a whole, spending events in any game don't really have a positive light, and I can see why. Next, I kind of want to get into what you get out of the spending event for Wuwa. So basically, you get a bunch of like free side items and stuff like that. Same thing with HSR, where you get some leveling up materials, some pulls, ash stripe, and a couple of other things as well. And I think at the very end, if you acquire 930 moonlight crystals, you can pick one out of the 3 5-star characters, which let me just specify and say that one of which is one of the best units in the game still to this date, which is Shorekeeper. Shorekeeper has been around since the Black Shore patch, and she's still a very important unit. You can use her pretty much in any team, and she'll provide worldwide buffs for all of your teams. So I do feel like you really are getting a more substantial amount of value out of Wuwa's spending event than you would with HSR. Now, I'm not trying to dog on any of these games because at the end of the day, both have pros and cons to them. But with HSR specifically, has had a lot of content drought until this recent patch that we're about to receive. And most of the events in the game you can complete in a few minutes. They don't really have any substance in there, and they definitely reuse old mechanics from older events to make these events. So little to no effort was put into those events. And to be honest, $300, regardless of if you have the money or not, is still a lot of money to be spending on a game that A, does not deserve it, and B, hasn't done anything to deserve it. To me, I feel like even if both of the spending events were both $300 equally, I wouldn't mind spending $300 on Wuwa, mainly because I genuinely believe that they deserve that money. Wuwa has for the longest time have been making continuous updates for their game since launch, and it has improved so much since then. And Wuwa, for me personally, is in a very good spot for them to be receiving this, in my personal opinion. Even if the rewards for Wuwa were as similar as HSR, again, the point still stands that I don't mind spending money on a company that has worked hard enough to deserve that kind of money. HSR, for the last couple of patches, haven't really done anything substantial enough for me personally to deserve that kind of money from their players. If anything, doing the bare minimum, filler patch after filler patch, just to have something in the game, releasing newer characters to revive older units, making it essential to pull for those newer units to revive the older units, such as Constant / the Dahlia, which revived the Break team, and Hyslins that revived the Dot team. Now, I also want to say HSR has been being a little bit more generous than usual, giving us a free 5-star selector, which basically all the units except for Kafka, Aventurine, and Sparkle literally have little to no relevance in the meta anymore, and it is increasingly hard to run older DPSs considering that the HSR damage cap continues to rise with every patch. It becomes increasingly difficult to clear endgame content with older units. I'm not saying that they're useless, but it does become a little tricky to make older units without any newer ones clear endgame. And basically, out of the 5-star selector, we get 3 characters that do well and cater to their own niche, while the other characters are very much irrelevant. Now, if you're just a collector or you just don't have a certain character, even if you don't plan on playing with that that character. For me, I was thinking of getting Aventurine, but considering that we've had a lot of new and free options, such as the new version of Donghong and Hyacinth, I do feel like Aventurine is very much niche when it comes to what kind of sustains you get, especially if you get a free one. While for Kafka, ever since Hyacinth has been released, the Dot team have been revived from the dead, if you will. And then you have Sparkle for the New Elation team if you plan on investing in that niche. So let's kind of move on to a little bit of the comparing between HSR and Wuwa. Like I said, both of these spending events are optional. At the end of the day, you do not have to spend for it. If you think it's too pricey or you think it's unfair or whatever, that's you. You do not have to engage. You do not have to spend. At the end of the day, that's your money. If you feel like a game doesn't deserve it or you feel like you're not getting your money's worth out of it, I highly recommend not spending on any spending event, which I feel like is very obvious. But moving past that, HSR has had multiple of like mini spending events even before this spending event, which caused a lot of people to be upset with HSR. And like I said, a lot of what HSR's patch releases have been releasing is just filler content, events that really don't have any substance, reused animations and context. Like there was not much given to the players to really refund them for everything that's happening. And I know that Hoyo cannot prevent what's been happening with Japan and China. I get that, you know, that's something out of their control, but at the same time, it's like they've had patch after patch after patch of just filler content just to have something in there. Maybe they may release a character or two, maybe 2 or 3 events that doesn't take much to complete, and it's not really that engaging for me. I kind of just turn off my brain as I do these events. Like they don't really stick with me. They just are just small little things to do. And to some people, that's better than nothing, which I do agree with, but I do feel like they could do better. They have done better, so I expect better. And Honkai Star Rail just hasn't done anything that deserves $300 from anybody, and that includes a weapon bow skin. I do feel like some of the prizes that you get from that spending event, such as a hat, which I think is like ugly looking hat, which I think is $30, and then you get like a free like character token to pick 1 5-star from the token shop, which, mind you, all of the characters except Ruon Mei have fallen out completely in their own niche and the meta. I mean, you can still run them, but these characters have been here since launch and quite literally struggle to clear even in their own niche. Even Ruon Mei is getting replaced by a lot of the newer 5-star units in HSR, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that even Ruon Mei, who is a very good support for any of your teams really, is becoming really difficult for her to hang on in her own niche. But maybe that's just me though. But other than that, you get the free weapon bow skin, which again doesn't really change much. Like if anything, I was kind of expecting like a free character or a free character skin. I do personally feel like you are getting way more with Wuwa. Mainly you're getting to choose one of the 3 characters, one of which is a really good sustain unit even in today's meta. And even like the old characters like Jinshi and Camellia, Jinshi is a really good main DPS. If you still run her, she can still clear endgame content, no problem. Then you have Camellia, a good free-to-play option. She is still fun to play with even if she is a older unit. My point is that compared to the 2, you have older units that can still clear endgame. I cannot say the same with HSR. They definitely have a couple of old units that can still very much clear endgame, but it becomes difficult. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to say that the older units in HSR is or almost near impossible to clear it, but it's become apparent that older HSR units can barely hold a candle to the new HSR characters. And it's only when a new character is released for a certain niche like Break or DOT that niche or that archetype becomes revived again. And it becomes clear that that character is very much a must pull if you play with that archetype. But at least with Wuwa, you're getting 3 options to choose from that still can clear endgame, that still have some relevance in the meta, and one of which, if you don't already have Shorekeeper, which I feel like a lot of people already do, if you don't have Shorekeeper, is a good sustain for all of your team. And I think those are like my main points as to what really is the difference here between HSR spending event and Wuwa spending event. But like I said, I also want to reiterate that at the end of the day, these are spending events. You are expected to spend a lot of money if you plan to reap the rewards out of them, but they also aren't a requirement. They do not remove any kind of gameplay aspect if you choose not to spend in it. And a lot of those characters, probably a lot of people already have, like Camellia and Jinshi, and probably even Shorekeeper. But if you don't, you get 3 viable options that you can use even in today's current stamp. But with that being said, that's going to be my thoughts and opinions on that. Let me know down below what you guys think as well. I definitely want to hear your thoughts about this and want to understand if I'm missing something or if I'm completely alone on this, or you agree. I'm not exactly sure, but let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye bye.